Good morning everybody, hope you're well. My name's Richard. You joined me on a bit of a wet and rainy day here this morning, and the sun's only just come up. Days are getting shorter, but in this video here I'm going to give you some comparisons between the Tesla Model Y and the Tesla Model X. Is it better to buy a used Model X with a few miles on it, or a newer Model Y? What are the pros and cons of each? How efficient is each one? In this video I will be able to give you some of my opinions on each, and certainly tell you some efficiency and real world range figures based on today's driving and conditions. So follow me for the day. Quite simply, I'm just delivering this Tesla Model Y to a new owner over in Wales, and then I'll be driving the Model X back. So I'll be driving each car back to back, and that will give me a chance to measure both and give you some opinions. So that's what this video is about. So I'm going to stop at Membry on the M4 westbound over here for a charge. Should arrive there with 12%. 35 miles out, but I've already got a message. It's already preconditioned the battery for fast charging. So because I left it in, it's colder and wetter this morning, it's going to heat the battery up so that it will charge at the best speed it can get. Now these are actually only 150 kilowatt chargers here. So it's never going to pull more than that anyway. So it seems a little bit futile, but nonetheless, the car knows best, and it will heat up a little bit. What I can show you here though is a little update with the software. So if I indicate and change lane, we get this camera, but I can actually now move this around on the screen, which is handy. It used to show up down here and wasn't that useful. So that's a nice little update we've got from the Tesla software there. It's nice. Does Autopilot still work in this weather? Yep. I can probably see better than I can at the moment. It's now 8 in the morning and I'm just at Membry services on the M4. Wouldn't normally need to charge up for that journey, but I only left with 40% because of the logistics that we had with this vehicle and what we're doing. So I'm plugging in now. Simple as that. Tesla, just pull up, plug it in, and it will do all the charging stuff in the background. Seems to have stopped to that. So not quite going up to 150, but still 138. We'll take that. So there we go, 8 o'clock, 12%. I'm going to go and grab a coffee and a bit of breakfast over there, and we'll see how long it takes just to top this up a little bit, and then I can deliver it with a good amount of charge to the new owner rather than just turning up right with an empty tank. So, all right, see you in a bit. So the Model Y for interior space and comfort. I think one of the biggest things you have to get used to with the Model 3 or Model Y is the fact you've just got one center screen, so you've got this minimal look. I think build quality is always fine. I think Tesla get unduly criticised for build quality. It's nice, the materials are good. Again, I'm not such a fan of this wooden trim that you get with the black interior, and that's why we sell a lot of the Alcantara trim dashboard, so that matches this door card here. So that's still popular and certainly my preference. But in here, it feels nice. People ask, what's it like with just having your speedo here and getting used to this one screen? Well, I think it does take a bit of getting used to, but you get used to it really quite quickly. So when you're driving, your speedo is right here. I don't think I miss in any way needing to see speed here. It is right here in this screen, so I think that's very easy. It does take a little bit of getting used to kind of moving around then onto the radio and the navigation. And one thing I kind of miss, especially with the software version, is looking at your trip information. You have to go to here and show it in this screen. Previously, you used to have it in little tiles here. You could swipe left and right. And of course, in the Model X and the S, you've got your driver binnacle where you can show your trip information. So I like that because I like looking at efficiency and stuff like, kind of geeky stuff like that. I like having that separate display. But you do get used to this very quickly. One thing that's quite popular now is those sort of swivel screen mounts. So there's something that we can fit. So if you're interested in a swivel screen that you can just tilt it slightly towards you to get in contact, we can fit those for you. So it's good to get used to it. It's very quick. You've got Ryzen processors in the Model Ys here in the UK. So this is all very quick and very responsive and great resolution. It is one of the best software systems of any car, I think, no doubt. I've tried lots of different cars. Easily brilliant. It just takes a little bit of getting used to all being on one screen. I love having the two wireless phone chargers there. Big deep console here, convenient cup holders here, and a big deep console under this armrest. And it's just a lovely thing to drive with great visibility. Loads of space here. My legs are straight and I've got loads of knee room here, and you've got some big door pockets as well, which is a good bonus. In the back, behind my seating position, still plenty of room, I'll show you. And so we can see here, even behind my seat, I'm 6 foot tall. I've got tons of knee room, tons of headroom, big glass roof, lets plenty of light in. We do have the standard tinted rear windows, but look at the space under the seat. I can really stretch my legs out like that if I want to. It's fantastic. You do have some recline on the back seat, so you can sit a little bit more upright if you prefer, or you can recline them right back and relax. One thing I would say is if I'm reclined right back, I'm just starting to touch this beam at the back here. So for me, I actually would bring this forward, in which case then I do have plenty of room. You can get 3 people across because it's got flat floor area. So you've even got pretty good space for 3 people, maybe not for an 8-hour trip, but comfortably, you know, for shorter journeys. And then of course you've got a vast boot space, and the newer cars, the very first batch didn't have parcel shelves, but they've all had parcel shelves since. Big storage underneath, big storage down the sides of the boot as well. And of course you've got a very convenient frunk space. And I found the frunk really useful for things like muddy wellies and you know, dirty shoes and all that kind of stuff can just go in there. It's just a plastic tub you can easily wash out as well. So on family trips, camping and such like, it's very easy to do so. So it's a great space inside. The Model Y is very practical, and you can see why it's very popular. Anyway, we've got enough charge to continue the trip now, 80% already. So let's pack down the camera and get going. So since I've been faffing around with the camera and doing some bits and pieces, we've been here for 35 minutes actually in the end now. And so we've gone from 10% to 81% in the 35 minutes. Remember, these are just V2 chargers, not V3, in which case we would have charged even faster. But nonetheless, that's added plenty. So I'm going to unplug and go. And off we go. So I can see the remaining journey, and I can see I'm going to arrive there with 48% estimated. The Model Y is of course a brilliant thing to drive. It's very sharp, very agile, fast steering, and plenty of performance. You drive anything else, suddenly you've got straight up to motorway speeds in seconds. It's a very quick car. It hides its weight very well. A lot of the similar cars of this size are heavier, so it does quite well for its weight. Now, one of the common criticisms I make or have made of the Model Y has been ride quality. This car here is not from the first batches, it's from a slightly later batch, and it's on the 19-inch wheels with the Hankook tyres. And I have to say, I think there's an improvement. I think they've just softened the suspension slightly. Having the smaller wheels compared to my own car, my first car from the first batch was a 20-inch wheel car. These smaller wheels, I think, do help. And then now I think the newer cars are just slightly softened off. I've felt the same with the latest Model 3s. They've just been slightly softened off. I never criticised the Model Y really for its ride at motorway speeds. I've always found them very comfortable there. But around town they were just a bit crashing. I found this one being a bit better. So I think you'll find that the ride has just been softened off that little bit. Combine that with the 19-inch wheels, it's a comfortable car. Still firmer than some, but it doesn't crash through the cabin as much at all. It's a brilliant car, the Model Y, and I can see why they're so popular. They really are very good. And for the money, the prices have been going up like everything else. But for the money, the range and the speed of charging, the ease of them, the practicality, the sheer everyday usability really is hard to beat. One other thing you have to get used to with the Model Y compared to the Model X is you don't have air vents you can just move around. You have to actually kind of go like this, and then you've got this cool graphic for moving your air vents around, but you know, it looks cool, it's good, but it's still easier just to move a little air vent, really, isn't it, at the end of the day? But you get used to it. Once you've got the vents kind of how you like it, you tend not to need to touch any of that stuff anyway. So I'm in a very nice pano on the seafront here at the moment. Very pretty, sun's even out, it's been very nice. So before we hand over this Model Y, I'm just going to wrap up some kind of efficiency and trip information for you here. So we've got a little bit of data, so I'll just move it around a little bit here. So since the last charge, 241 watt hours per mile, so a little bit more than 4 miles per kilowatt hour. Since I left this morning, 167 miles, 258 watt hours per mile. So that includes the cold start, the rain, The last bit was quite efficient because there's quite a lot of kind of 50 miles per hour average speed limits just as you come into Newport and Cardiff, so that makes it more efficient. But what we can see here, interestingly, this trip here, 3,300 miles since this car was new. It actually averaged 246 watt hours per mile, so long-term average, just over 4 miles per kilowatt hour. So these kind of numbers give you a real-world range going from 100% to 0% of about 280 miles, basically. In fact, a little bit more. This is a 79 kilowatt hour battery pack. And you've got, if you really max it 100% till it absolutely dies, and we did another video on that just to see what happens, you can actually eke 76 kilowatt hours out of it. But typically you've got about 3.5 kilowatt hour buffer, so you'd actually use about 100% to zero, about 73 kilowatt hours. So if you kind of average all this up and say, look, it averages 4 miles per kilowatt hour, which is very good for a car of this size, and you've got about 73 kilowatt hours usable 100% to 0%, 290 odd miles. So that ties in a fairly efficient driving and conditions of that kind of mileage. No doubt as we get into winter, or if you drive a little bit more enthusiastically, you'd be nearer 250 miles of range, but you can easily make one of these do more than 300 miles of range. So all quite consistent with what we've found. This long-term efficiency here is more efficient than the one that I used myself quite long term with the 20-inch wheels. So I think the 19-inch wheels with the aero covers do help a little bit with the efficiency as well. I was always running about 265 watt hours per mile on the 20-inch wheels. So again, there's always so many variables, but there we go, pretty consistent 4 miles per kilowatt hour, so it is possible out of one of these cars. So I'm going to go and hand this over, and then I'm going to jump in the Model X, and we'll do some similar comparisons with that from the return journey. And driving the X, what do I think of it compared to the Y? Would I go for an X or a Y? I'll let you know. So here we are now in a Tesla Model X. Now this is a late 2016, might be January 2017 car, but this car ultimately is coming up to 6 years old. Let me get my maths right. Yeah, that's right. And I've got 76,500 miles on the clock of this. And yet it's worth kind of similar money to a new Model Y. And you think, well, why? What's the point? You know, why would you have an older Model X? They're still popular. We still sell them. And there's a few reasons for that. One is they are just bigger. If you need more than 5 seats, it's still really the only option. This is a 6-seater. If you want 6 or 7 seats, it needs to be a Model X. I have tried a 7-seater Model Y in the United States, by the way, and it's laughable. If you think you're going to wait and change a 7-seater Model X for a 7-seater Model Y, yeah, if they ever come to the UK, they are very small in the back for 7 seats. It just doesn't really work. Check out my other videos where I'm in a Model Y, 7-seater in station. You can't get in the back. So if you need more than 5 seats, it has to be a Model X. So this is an X90D, so 90 kilowatt hours battery, but usable is less than that. It's a bigger, heavier car, so we probably won't get the same efficiency, but I have just reset trips so I can measure the efficiency on the return journey. But one thing you do notice straight away, yes, it's the bigger car, it's heavier, it does feel larger, but it's also smoother, and I think there's a lot to be said for that. I've got this big glass windscreen here as well, but it comes right up without any intrusion. I love this. This is just lovely. Every time I get in a Model X, I love this big windscreen. It feels great. Of course, you've got the windscreen, big glass roof in the Y, but you've got that beam here, so this being open, it's just lovely. It is just smoother. The X has air suspension as standard. The later Model X's even have adaptive damping as well, and they're even better. But this Model X, air suspension, 20-inch wheels, and this one, it's a lovely, smooth car to drive. Even with 76,500 miles, it feels great. The owner of this car has reported that he's loved the car. He's had very minimal issues. He's just replaced some top suspension arms because of a squeaky bush not too long ago. But I don't think after this mileage that would be particularly unusual in most cars. And he's had one inner rear light unit replaced because it had some moisture build up inside. So apart from that, it's been a good car to him. And we do find that typically they are, you know, good, solid, reliable cars, and mileage isn't too much of an issue. One of the key factors that makes this Model X, for example, really desirable is it has free supercharging. Who doesn't want something for free these days, especially as energy prices rise? This Model X has free supercharging, so if you are traveling around the country a lot and using the superchargers, this can save you quite a lot of money. Not many Model X's have free supercharging. Most of them just came in the country too late. It has to be a car up until the end of 2016 basically, so typically an X90 a D. There'll be a couple of 75s and there's a couple of XP 100Ds, but it's pretty rare to find a Model X with free supercharging. I see loads of people advertising Model X's with free supercharging, but that's normally just for the first owner. It will not transfer. If you see a 2018 X100D and someone says it's got free supercharging, no, it doesn't. It will not transfer to the new keeper. Doesn't matter how much you argue about that. You just got to deal with the fact it isn't. But one that does, well, who doesn't want that? So of course that's desirable, and they're still just nice cars to drive. They're smoother than the Model Y. We've got more space. The frunk is even bigger. It's massive on the Model X. You can even put some golf bats in there apparently. Not that I've ever tried. The boot is even bigger. You've got a 6-seater like this. It's got plenty of space for 6 people in the car, even 6 adults. The Model X has got the space, it's smoother, it's refined, and some of them have a free supercharging. And of course we got the Falcon Wing doors, which are impressive, and they stop. The best thing about them, of course, and anyone with kids would notice, it stops the child opening the door into the car next to you. You can open these, and if you're right tight against something, the doors will still open up wide and the kids can't bang the door into the car next to you in a car park. So the Model X, there's a lot to be said for it. See this bump here? See, this wafts over that bump much more than the Model Y. I'd have gone like that over that bump. So, yeah, I do like a Model S and an X still. They are still smoother and more comfortable, more refined, I think. So, a lot to be said. Even after a few years old and a few miles under its belt, it's still a lovely thing to drive. Okay, so right, return journey. I can see here there's a bit of traffic situation. Look at this. So this is the benefit, right? I've got my close-up navigation directions in the center console here. So the turn-by-turn at a roundabout, I can see that here. And I can still look at a general overview of the route I'm doing here. And it's taken the cross-country route at the moment because I can see here there's some traffic up on the M4 here. And so that's beneficial. I can have the overview map here and still see my close-up directions here. On the Y, you kind of have to zoom in and out of both. Of course, I can see my trip information constantly, and I've reset that to see what efficiency I get. That's, of course, I think very useful to have. And then we've got more space on the main screen for radio, whilst you're looking at the map as well. So it is nice to have the 2 big screens as well. It is easier than having the single screen. The single screen you do get used to, but yeah, I mean, this is nice to have, and I can still see the kind of visuals in here for the Autopilot stuff as well. So yeah, this is comfortable. I like it. I find the seats actually more comfortable than the Model Y as well. A bit more bolstering, a bit more, I think, a bit more support. Some people prefer the seats in the Y and the 3, but I prefer the S and X seats personally. But again, everyone's a bit different. So I'm going to settle into this journey. Trips are reset. Let's see, you know, I expect this to be less efficient than the Model Y, of course. It's a bigger, heavier car, but, you know, is it massively different? And we'll do some charging as well, probably, so that we get an idea of the charging speed as well. Probably doesn't charge quite as quick as a Model Y, but usually not too bad. And if it's free, go and grab the extra coffee, do an extra email, and wait for it. So, right, let's navigate out through Cardiff and hit the motorway. So I've just stopped to top up the charge on my way back. I'm at Winchester Service Centre now, where they've got a row of V3 chargers, so you need the CCS adapter to use such chargers. Like I say, I do recommend having one of them with a Model S or a Model X, otherwise I won't be able to use them. Right, so let's talk a little bit about the efficiency and real world range of this Model X then on the journey today. So I reset a trip just after I left when I had 90% of the battery. When I'd got down to 40% battery, I'd covered 110 miles. So that would indicate from, you know, using 50%, 110 miles, 220 mile range from 100% to 0%. And based on the amount of kilowatt hours I'd used at the time there, we've got a usable capacity from 100% to 0, about 76 kilowatt hours in this, before we get to buffers and stuff like that. So there'll be a bit more in there, but you get to buffers. And now recharging just past 50% and pulling 90 kilowatts. It started off about 130 kilowatts when I plugged in at 35%. And of course it just gradually ramps down its speed. So 95 kilowatts at 50% wasn't that dissimilar. I think the Model Y was about the same. So at that state of charge, it's actually pulling about the same speed. Not too bad at all. Bearing in mind this car, also a few years old with 76,500 miles on it, is still very capable. Its efficiency, well, it's not as efficient as the Y as we would expect. Bigger, heavier car. 333 watt hours per mile. Well, 334 now, but let's call that 3 miles per kilowatt hour. Whereas in the Model Y we had 4 miles per kilowatt hour. So you can see it's less efficient, and therefore its real world range is going to be a bit less than that from this battery pack. But nonetheless, still very capable, and a bit of free charging, which is great, isn't it? So I'm gonna nip in the service centre, use the facilities, grab a coffee, and then I'll get on the way back to base. I've been here for 40 minutes now. Well, not here, I've been inside, used the toilet, had a coffee, and that's taken the car back up from 35% to 86%. So it has slowed down at 27 kilowatts, so I'm going to unplug in a second and just head on now. But, you know, it'd be interesting. I need to do a poll this one day at a petrol station, don't I? That's if you ask somebody, would they pay £100 for filling up their tank, and you do that in 10 minutes, or take 40 minutes and you have to stand at the pump, go and sit down and have a coffee and answer emails like I've just been doing, but you get it for free. Wonder what people would say. I wonder how many people would go for the free charge, the free refuel, if you just do some other stuff for 30-40 minutes. There's always things to do, emails on your phone and stuff like that. But anyway, I've done what I need to do. I need to get back to the office, so I'm plugging and now and going. Pull this out. Take your CCS adapter with you, and off we go. So back at base, and before I round things up, I'm just going to summarise the trip on there. I actually got 315 watt hours per mile, so over 3 miles per kilowatt hour. So my average for the day in this car, 160 miles, 330 watt hours per mile. So even a big car like this can do more than 3 miles per kilowatt hour, which isn't too bad at all. Just summarise being in this compared to the Y. Well, it does feel bigger. It is obviously a bigger, heavier car. It's got a slower steering rack, so it's a bit more relaxed and a bit more of a smooth cruise. I really enjoy driving these cars. I love this big windscreen. It's lovely. I like just having air vents, so you can quickly just move around without having to go on the screen. Even just having the extra stalk here for the wipers is quite handy if you want to quickly flick them on or off or override the auto settings. Although the auto wipers were fine. It obviously has plenty of space in here. Having the 2 screens is nice. You've got more space for mapping, and you see your radio, and you see your trip, and you see your close-up directions, and you see some of your autopilot-y stuff up there, all at the same time. I think it's nice. I love the seating position, and the visibility again is good. You've got door pockets in the X, which are handy, but the center console is not as good as the Y. This has always been a bit of an afterthought. It's okay. You've got a big storage area, and you can have big bottles and big cups in here, but you've also got cup holders here. Nonetheless, lovely and comfortable. I don't have the 2 wireless phone chargers. In fact, I don't have any wireless phone chargers in this particular car, but you can get a wireless dock that goes in there for charging your phone. So it's been very nice and very comfortable. And of course, I've got the power doors. How's the space in the back compared to the Y with my seating position? Let's have a look. So I can close the doors electronically. I wouldn't want to do that myself. Of course, plenty of room in here, and I can actually recline this back a little bit, and I don't have any limitation of headroom here. I've got a little window up there which gives plenty of space. Standard tinted windows, loads of knee room like the Y. Again, I can get my feet under the chair in front, so this is very comfortable. This is a 6-seater version. If it was a 5 or 7-seater, you can actually have 3 adults across here very comfortably, more comfortably so than the Y. This one though, with the extra seats in the back, I can quite easily just shuffle through here. And in here is a little bit tighter. Now what you can do is move this seat forward a little bit. So I can actually go like that, and I can get in a bit more comfortably, so you can compromise the space there a little bit, and you do have plenty of space to do that. And then me, even as 6 foot tall, I'm in the back. And actually, if I want to, I can spread my legs down the middle here and really sit quite comfortably in the back for long periods of time. So if you need the sheer space, the X clearly has it, as long as you have the 6 or the 7 seaters if you want to carry more than 5 people. But this is comfortable. Air vent here as well, so ventilation. I could happily spend a long time in the back. Okay, so there we have it, the Model X versus Y. Let me know which one you prefer. You know, so you're looking at a used X or a new Model Y. You can see why the new Model Y is very popular. It's a fantastic car, very efficient for its size as well. But if you need more seats, more space, then the X is the one. The X is the more refined, the smoother car to drive. For doing longer journeys especially, the X is my preference really. It's just more comfortable, but maybe that's just me at my age. If you've gone from an X to a Y, let me know in the comments below, or indeed if you've gone from a Y to an X. I know some people that have. Let me know your thoughts and why you made the change in the comments below there. Obviously the X is a bit less efficient than the Y. This is an X90D, so if you get the X100D or X long range with the bigger batteries, then they can equal the kind of 250 to 300 mile distance that the Y long range does. So there we have it, free supercharge, and of course fantastic on that. Who wouldn't want a bit of that? So that's that for now. That's my opinions on the two cars. Just depends on your case point, what you need and what your priorities and preferences are. For me, I still have a slight preference over the X, but you can see both cars are fantastic. Both cars are still brilliant products, and even the X of a few years old drives beautifully. So there we go. That's it for now. I hope that's been useful. Any questions, let me know in the comments below. I'll try and answer as many as I can, and I'll see you on the next video. So bye for now. Thank you very much for watching.